Although closures can be really complicated, what I need you to keep in mind is that JavaScript allows us to include one function inside another, and that will encapsulate everything that we need inside one single element. Let me show you an example. Let's go back to the code and let me create a code where I'm going to create a function that will sum the multiples of two different values. For multiplying, I'm going to create another function inside here where I receive a value. I'm going to create a multiplier, and then I'm going to return the value times that multiplier. With that, I can create multiple value 1, where I call that multiple for value 1. Let's just log that value just so we can see the result. Then I can again do the same for the second value, where I multiply the value 2, and let's just log that one as well. Finally, I just want to return the multiple of value 1 plus the multiple of value 2. Now I can simply call sum multiple values and send two different values, and then we can log the result on the console. With that, if I save my function, you can see that I get the result 10. That's because I'm calling some multiples and I'm sending the value 2 and 3. Here I'm receiving 2 and 3. Then here is my closure. I create a function inside another one, and that function I'm going to use to create the multiple. So I call for this one multiple of value 1, and then I just log the result. So 2 times the multiplier, which is also 2, that gives me 4. And I can call again for the second value, which is 3, and then 3 times 2, it's 6, and then the final result, 10. I can change my multiplier. If I save that, then I get result 15. The main idea here is that I can have one function inside another function, and that's create a closure that will encapsulate everything. One way for us to view this is using this resource that we have inside Visual Studio Code, where I can collapse an entire function. So let's say I collapse these sum multiples. As you can see, I have this function, sum multiples, which receive two values, and that's what I'm using here. What I have inside, I don't know, but that closure has everything that I need, allows me to have everything that I need inside this single element, inside this single function. And that's used by React a lot. We use this idea of having one function inside the other a lot. Some key points here that you need to keep in mind is that once I have these elements, I have the block scope. I have access to variables that belongs to the same block. So let's take as an example this variable multiplier, which I'm creating inside this function multiply. Let's say I want here just to log, so let's say inner, and then I log this multiplier. If I save, you can see I have inner 3, it's repeating twice because I'm calling this function twice, and I have access to this variable. But look what happens if I try to have access to this multiplier from outside this multiply function. So again, let me just collapse everything. Once I collapse, you can see that I cannot see this multiplier variable. So let's say here I'm going to log this multiplier as well. But this multiplier variable is something that belongs to this function. So from outside that function, I cannot see this multiplier anywhere. So if I save here, you can see that I get an error because multiplier is just available inside this scope, inside this block. If I need, I could move this one level up, so I can remove from here and include inside this outer function. So let me do again, let me hide this, and now you can see that I can view the multiplier. Even when I collapse this, I still can see multiplier right here, and so does my code. If I save, you can see that from inner I got 3 and 3, and also from outer I also got 3, because now I can view that information even outside this function multiply. As you noticed, another advantage is that the inner function, the function that is inside here, also has access to this multiplier. So the inner function has access to all variables that the main function, the outer function, has. So inside the multiply, I have access to the multiplier. But the outer function doesn't have access to the elements, to the variables that we declare inside here. And yeah, once I have this, I have access to this information. Let's say I want to log this information here outside this main function. So again, if I collapse here, what I can see from here, what I can view the sum multiples. I have access to that, but I should not have access to the multiplier. If I save, you can see I have an error because multiplier is something that belongs inside these sum multiples. And that's the main idea. Let me remove this line. The main idea is that with closures, I can include one function inside another function, and with that create a container. That container will have everything that I need for this function to work, but anything inside here will be available outside because it's not needed. Everything is inside there and restricted only to that function, which saves a lot of space on the computer memory. Another thing to keep in mind is that when I'm creating closures, it doesn't matter the type of function that I'm using. So inside here, I have created two function declarations, but that sum multiples, that could be a function expression. So let's say this one, like this, it's a function expression. If I save, you can see everything works. The same for the inner function. That one could be, for instance, an arrow function, multiply, receives the value. If I save, everything still works. So whenever we are working with this idea of inner functions, nested functions and closures, I can have one function inside the other, and it doesn't matter if a function declaration, a function expression, or an arrow function.